Game of Thrones Season 8, Episode 3. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. And it's such a shame because it was one of the best episodes ever in terms of choreography, music, directing, the whole atmosphere. Yet, they still managed to undo everything and burn it down with sloppy storytelling. And this actually reminded me of something very important in marketing. Storytelling is everything, regardless of your company's size, budget, or marketing campaigns. Here's the thing though, storytelling can single-handedly make or break your business, especially in 2019 where ad costs are up, engagements are down, conversions are down. Keep watching to find out more. Now, before I continue, obviously, spoiler warning. If you're the one Game of Thrones fan who hasn't seen episode 3 yet, then make sure to watch it first and then revisit this video. Otherwise, here's the thing, and I can't emphasize this enough. Storytelling was always important in marketing, but it's unbelievably important now in 2019 and going forward. And here's why. Marketing has changed, especially online marketing. People want more personal connections, but obviously they can't have it since we live in an internet-connected world. So they want something which is close to it, as close to it as possible. And this is where storytelling comes in, because our whole brains are hardwired to be receptive to storytelling. And in this dire landscape for marketers in 2019, when ad costs are up, conversions are down, engagements are down, your best strategy is actually good storytelling, genuine storytelling, and storytelling which resonates with your brand, with your whole brand message. And this is the problem with Game of Thrones. The entire story was created to, according to George R.R. Martin, combat the tropes that were so common in fantasy writing at the time. So what does this mean? It means that we have no one-dimensional bad guy villain. It means that characters have various complex motivations, including the bad guys. So there is no clear black and white. There is no clear contrast between the good guys and the bad guys. And also one more thing, to translate complex military, political, societal, complex problems into a narrative which is realistic, brutal, but extremely satisfying for fans. And this is the problem. You see, the brand of Game of Thrones is all about subverting the norms. The reason why so many fans liked it and fell in love with it wasn't only because it was just one more fantasy series. It was because it was a realistic fantasy series. It was something in which people schemed their way through victory. It's not about good guys and bad guys. And in Season 8, Episode 3, it became abundantly clear that the writers have lost direction. And in a sense, this is understandable. You see, HBO is a business. It wants to make money. It has investors. It has a board of directors. And the problem is that when your objectives are tied to these key performance metrics, then you're going to skimp on storytelling in order to make more money. And for all these shows, there are constant ratings of how people like this character, that character, plots. There are a whole bunch of people who are doing analytics and they're basically analyzing the situation to see how they can get the most views for their show. And the truth is that some elements of really good storytelling are simply not popular enough. Like, think about how a lot of casual viewers would have reacted if half of the cast, the main cast, died in this episode. They would have been pretty enraged, even if this episode was all about killing off major characters. But surprise, none of the most important main characters died. They had plot armor. And this is a problem because in good storytelling, you cannot really have plot armor because otherwise people lose attention. And this is what happened actually. A lot of fans are enraged. If you go to IMDb, if you go to several review sites, you will see a high rating for the episode. But if you read the comments, then people are actually enraged that they take this Night King and White Walker narrative, they build it up for 7 seasons, they create so much mystery around it, so much backstory, so much intrigue, and then they just burn everything down in one episode. Think about it for a minute. The Night King and his whole storyline had the opportunity to become the most badass, coolest villain in whole of TV history. Yet they blew it. They just wrote it off because they didn't have the budget for it. They didn't have the capacity to do 3 more seasons to really give this story the punch it really deserves. They had to cut it short, and I totally understand it. They're a studio. An episode like this costs tens of millions of dollars to produce, so obviously they cannot just spend money on these things, and they basically wanted to finish the whole series focusing on the human aspects, which is totally cool. But this isn't the spirit of Game of Thrones. This isn't what the show has been all about up until this point. People feel like this is something that isn't genuine. And you know what? They're absolutely right. Game of Thrones isn't about Deus Ex Arias, where Arya just jumps out of the darkness, surrounded by the dead, surrounded by all the other White Walkers, and ninja kills the Night King. It just shouldn't happen so easily in Game of Thrones. Yet they did it anyway. And there's an understandable backlash for it because you can't just change the core essence of a brand on the fly. People will be enraged, even though it's one of the most well-directed episodes ever, and the soundtrack is amazing, and the whole atmosphere is amazing. Even though it was a little bit dark, I still think it connected with the whole message of the long night and the threat of the dead very well. However, this just shows you that the directors, Benioff and Weiss, are not natural storytellers like George R.R. Martin. It's just, there's no comparison. And this is why the book version, if it's finished, will going to be remembered as one of the best fantasy series of all time, while the series will still be remembered as one of the best and most ambitious TV series of all time. But in terms of storytelling, a lot of people will say, yeah, it was cool. There were dragons, there were zombies, there were all these intrigue, sex, politics, everything, and it was super cool. But it's just not gonna have the same punch. So, what are the most important lessons for marketers? Well, first of all, your brand, your company has a consistent message. It has to communicate the same thing over and over to people, otherwise they'll think that you're not genuine enough. And if you suddenly start creating messaging which is 180 degrees different from your core messaging, then you will lose a lot of customers and your marketing campaigns will bump, and this is totally understandable. So the most important lesson here is to stay true to your brand and have messaging consistency. The second important lesson here is that, as you've seen, even the highest budget studios can mess this up. Think about it. They have tens of millions of dollars to direct one episode. They should have access to the best writers. They have all the latest technology. They have all these inside tools into the market. Yet they still manage to mess this up. So the lesson here is that regardless of your company size, regardless of your marketing budget, you can still disappoint people just like that, even if you've built credibility for years and years and years by selling yourself short and basically going against what you stood for so many years. Don't do it. Don't do it because your business is going to take a huge hit and it might be really hard to recover from it. And the third but most important lesson is this. Even though we live in a very technologically advanced world, we have all these automations, we have all these various tools that you can automate your business with, you can create various funnels which convert people on autopilot for you. But the truth is that these advanced, impersonal ninja tactics work less and less in marketing, especially in 2019 and above, because people are tired of ninja tactics. They want genuine connection, they want genuine stories. And the most important lesson here is that if you don't give them a genuine story of your product, of your brand, of where you started, of the founders, then people will be turned off and they just won't care anymore, because there are tons of competitors out there. If you can stay authentic and serve your core audience, they will support you. They will vote for you with their dollars. But if you betray everything you've stood for so far, then there will be outrage and you might not recover from it. Or even in the best case scenario, you're going to lose a lot of customers and trust. And it is very, very hard to build trust, especially nowadays. So make sure to give this a thought. Because just as the Night King was hyped up to be this extremely interesting, cool character with some complex background motivations and basically just turned out to be one more Terminator style bad guy, your whole customer voice and branding strategy can also just be undone just like that, even though it was so promising so far. So if there's one thing that you take away from this video, let it be this. Be authentic to your core audience and serve them with great stories, because then they will care and they will give you their money voluntarily. I promise this. I hope you enjoyed this video, and make sure to leave a thumbs up if you liked it. And if you loved it, then feel free to subscribe as well, because I'll be releasing similar videos about marketing strategy, and that way you'll be the first one to know. Also, leave a comment below and let me know what you thought about this episode. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What do you really think about the conclusion of the Night King and whole White Walker storyline? Leave a comment below because I'd love to know. So, thank you for watching and see you in the next one.